Hey guys, tonight we're going to slow things down and sit with a story that matters. This is the story of a woman who walked into a room where nobody expected anything from her and left them changed forever. Loreen Brooks doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't move to be noticed. But when she walked into the West Pine Community Center that Wednesday evening, the air shifted not because of what she said, but because of what others assumed. She was 68, maybe 5'2", with silver braids tucked into a loose bun and a pastel windbreaker zip-pinned tight against the Georgia chill. Her sneakers squeaked softly as she walked across the polished floor toward the mat, where 20 students moved in synchronized drills under harsh fluorescent lights. Most were teens and 20-somethings, bodies still buzzing with the kind of energy that thinks it will never run out. And when they noticed her, really saw her, a hush fell, followed by the flicker of smirks. The instructor, a wiry man with a trimmed beard and booming voice, paused mid-count. "Ma'am, are you looking for someone?" The tone was polite, but the assumption clear. Loreen smiled just a little. "I'm here for the 6 o'clock class." A long beat. Whispers stirred behind her. One voice snorted low and cruel. "Must be yoga next door." Another laughed too loud, nudging his friend with the subtle meanness teenagers think is invisible. But Loreen didn't flinch. She adjusted her glasses, glanced calmly across the room, and stepped to the bench along the mirrored wall, easing herself down with the quiet confidence of someone who's lived through worse than stares. The instructor blinked, unsure what to say. "This is a sparring class," he added, like it might be a warning. Loreen nodded. "That's why I'm here." She didn't wear didn't tie on a belt. She simply began to stretch, slowly rolling her shoulders, circling her arms, gently leaning side to side. But her posture said everything: controlled, grounded, unapologetically present. Still, the room didn't shift, not yet. One of the assistant instructors, barely out of college, crouched beside her with an awkward smile. "Some of these drills are tough on the joints," he offered, trying to help. "Want me to walk you through some gentle warm-ups?" She glanced sideways. "You ever do roundhouse kicks in a horse stance with full control?" He hesitated. "Uh, no ma'am, didn't think so," she replied. Turning back to her stretches, the boy blinked and walked off without another word. But even then, no one looked at her with anything but amusement. Wrinkles meant weakness. Soft steps meant fragility. She was invisible and yet somehow laughable. Their space, their rules, and she didn't fit the picture. But not everything stays buried forever. The drills continued. The air smelled faintly of sweat and rubber mats. Music buzzed faintly from a phone speaker. People moved like they were the stars of their own highlight reels. Loreen kept stretching. Quiet, deliberate. One teenager in a brown belt, Malik, cracked his knuckles loudly as he performed an exaggerated spin kick for no one in particular. He was tall, cocky, and had a swagger that came from years of being the best in a small room. He noticed Loreen watching and smirked. "Hope she brought a first aid kit," he muttered. Someone nearby laughed. No one said anything to stop it. And Loreen? She said nothing either. She finished her stretches, stood and mimicked the basic drills from her spot on the sideline. Her timing was slower, but the form, the stance, the balance was textbook. Not that anyone noticed. Not yet. "Partner up," called the lead instructor. "Light contact. Work on control." Malik looked around, arms folded. "Guess I'll sit this one out," he said loudly. "Don't want to knock over a grandma." Loreen stepped forward. "I'll go with you." The room turned. It was the first time most of them really looked at her. Malik raised an eyebrow. "You sure about that, Em?" "If you are," she said. He grinned. "All right, but don't say I didn't warn you." The instructor hesitated, clearly uncertain. "Just keep it respectful," he said. They squared off. Malik's stance was loose, cocky. Loreen's was rooted, measured, but no one saw what was coming. Malik grins as if this will be over in seconds. His body shifts side to side like a boxer itching for a show. But Loreen just stands there, hands open, knees soft, balanced, in that quiet readiness that doesn't ask for attention. The room still buzzes with that low electricity, whispers, half laughs, one student subtly recording on their phone just in case something funny happens. Nobody really expects a contest. They expect a moment, an embarrassment, but not the kind they're about to get. "Begin," the instructor says. Malik moves first. A light jab toward Loreen's shoulder. Nothing forceful. A poke, almost a tease. She doesn't flinch. Her eyes track his core, not his hands, not his feet, just his center. The next move comes quicker. A low kick sweeping toward her shin. Again, not dangerous, more like a taunt. She pivots out with grace, barely moving more than an inch. Come on, Malik chuckles. You gonna do something or... He doesn't finish. With one controlled step, Loreen slides inside his range, lifts her palm with exact precision, and taps the side of his GI. Just a tap, but it's clean. Technical. Dead center. Malik stumbles half a step more from surprise than force. The room hushes. Just a second of stillness. Someone mutters, "Did she just..." Loreen resets. Calm. Malik's smile fades. The instructor calls the next round. Malik steps in harder this time. Faster. He throws a sharper jab, and this time Loreen moves, not with flash, but with practiced clarity. She sidesteps, pivots. Her hip sweeps her leg lightly behind his and redirects his weight with the barest touch of her shoulder. Malik hits the mat, hard. Gasps ripple across the gym. One girl covers her mouth. The boy with the phone lowers it suddenly, not so eager to record anymore. Malik blinks up at the ceiling lights like they've betrayed him. His cheeks redden, and for the first time that night, he looks unsure. He sits up, brushes himself off, and mutters, "You tripped me." Loreen, still composed, simply says, "You fell." And that's when things begin to change. Whispers shift to silence. A few students now glance sideways at Loreen with something close to curiosity, not respect yet, but the beginning of it. The instructor raises his hand. "Break. Get water. Back in 5. The class scatters. Malik stays where he is for a second longer than he should. Then, grabbing his bottle, he marches over to Loreen. His tone still holds a bite. "That's sweep. You got lucky." She doesn't blink. "Boy, I've forgotten more about control than you've learned." Malik scoffs but doesn't respond. He walks away without a comeback. And that silence. That's new. As the class sips water and scrolls phones, a quiet girl named Raina Purple Belt, barely 16, approaches. Loreen cautiously. "Excuse me, that move you did, was that..." Shotokan close. Loreen says, her voice soft but sure. "Goju Ryu, a little variation I learned years ago. You practice a long time, since '82. Took a break for a while, but I kept the habit." Raina's eyes light up, but she doesn't ask more. Not yet. A few others glance over from a distance. Malik, meanwhile, is brooding in the corner, stretching a little too hard, breathing just a little too loud. He doesn't like being upstaged, especially not by someone the class had written off before she even stepped on the mat. But not everything stays buried forever. Drills restart. The instructor calls for light sparring optional. Most students decline, tired or too uncertain. Malik raises his hand. "Anyone want a round?" Nobody moves, until Loreen stands. She walks to the center mat with her hands wrapped in borrowed gloves. Malik smirks. "You sure I don't expect you to go easy?" "Good, 'cause I won't." The instructor hesitates. 2 minutes. Light contact. I'm watching. Students form a quiet ring around the mat. No one's laughing now. Phones are lowered. Voices still. "Touch gloves," the instructor says. Malik taps hers with barely disguised arrogance. "Begin." He moves fast. Faster than before. A jab, a hook, a quick spin, but it's all performance. Loreen watches his chest, not his limbs. When he commits to a low kick, she pivots just enough. The strike misses. Her counter is a single swift push to his upper chest, not even full force, and he stumbles. Not because she's stronger, because she's more grounded. Malik growls and charges. She slips under him, hooks her leg. Doesn't follow through, just lets him hang on his own balance. When he turns back, she's already set again. "Come on," he snaps. "You scared?" No reply. He throws a heavier punch, just enough to break the light contact rule. She parries, then sweeps. Again. He hits the mat. Again. Gasps return. Not cruel now, stunned. The instructor steps in. Time. Malik sits up slowly. He's not hurt, just undone. The look in his eyes isn't anger anymore. It's realization. And for the first time all night, every eye in the gym is on Loreen. Not with doubt, with respect. The gloves come off slowly. Loreen pulls the Velcro loose with calm fingers, peeling them away like she's done it 100 times. No breathless celebration, no high fives or boasts. She hands the gloves to the instructor with a small nod and walks back to the bench like it's just another drill, like she didn't just upend the entire room's assumptions. The air in the gym feels different now, not heavy but hushed. Still, as if everyone's trying to replay what just happened in their heads to make sure it was real. Malik remains seated on the mat for a few seconds, shoulders tense, chest rising and falling. He isn't injured, not physically, but something else stings, something deeper. His friends aren't jeering anymore. They're quiet, unsure of what to say. The laughter has died. The assumptions cracked. He finally stands, brushes off his guy, and walks slower this time back toward the bench where Loreen sits sipping from an old metal water bottle. He doesn't puff out his chest, doesn't try to salvage pride with a joke. He just stands there for a moment unsure. Then carefully he says, "You didn't even break a sweat." Loreen looks up. That's what breathing's for. There's no sarcasm in her voice. Just a simple truth. He shifts awkwardly. "You ever compete?" She gives a soft smile. "Once. Long time ago. That part of my life paused when my husband got sick." Malik doesn't interrupt. He senses something important is being said. Lorraine's gaze drifts to the far windows where the last golden threads of sunlight streak across the polished mat. "Parkinson's," she continues. "Hit him fast, took everything. I stopped training, started working nights at the hospital to cover his treatment. Time got swallowed. And when he passed, I forgot who I was for a while." The students nearby, once half distracted, are now listening. A few pretend to tidy up their gear just to be close enough to hear. The instructor leans against the wall, arms crossed. No one wants to break the silence. "I didn't come back to prove anything," Loreen adds, voice steady. "I came to remember something. Something the world doesn't always let women like me hold on to." "What's that?" Malik asks quietly. "That I still matter. That I still have something to give, even if I don't wear a belt." Raina steps forward. You don't have a black belt?" Loreen chuckles gently. "I earned my first one in '86, my third by '91. After that, I stopped counting. Promotions didn't mean much once I started teaching in the trauma wing. Real fights happen there, not with gloves." A slow wave of realization settles over the group. Malik looks at her, expression open now. "So why come back? Why tonight?" Loreen's voice softens. "Because sometimes you have to do something hard just to remember you're still breathing." Another pause, this one respectful. Students exchange glances, not with skepticism, with something closer to admiration. Even the assistant instructor, who tried to guide her stretches earlier, now stands near the bench, arms loosely folded, eyes lowered in quiet apology. But not everything stays buried forever. The instructor, Devin, walks over and lowers himself onto a folding chair across from Loreen. He clears his throat. "You ever think about teaching again?" She raises an eyebrow. "I'm serious," he says. "You've got something different. Something this class could use." "I didn't come here to lead." "Doesn't mean you shouldn't." Before she can respond, Malik speaks up. "Miss Brooks," he says, swallowing hard. "I was out of line earlier. I didn't think, just reacted, judged you." Loreen meets his eyes. "You thought I was weak." He nods. "Now I know better." She studies him for a long second, then extends her hand. "Then we're good." He shakes it, firm but not forced. More students gather now, not to gawk, but to listen. Raina inches closer. "Would you maybe show us that sweep again sometime?" Loreen smiles, this time warmer. "Only if you are willing to learn." From the corner, someone murmurs, "We've been learning since you walked in." The room doesn't laugh. Not this time. Devin stands, hands on hips. "What if we did something once a month," he suggests, "real-world training. Stuff you don't learn from drills alone. With you leading it." A few heads nod. Someone claps once awkwardly, then stops. It's not a celebration. It's a beginning. Loreen looks around. The gym, the mirrors, the faces now watching her, not with ridicule but curiosity. The space feels different. Open. She finally answers, "If you're willing to show up, I'll meet you there." The class officially ended 20 minutes ago, but no one is in a rush to leave. Water bottles sit untouched. G-belts remain untied. Instead, a half circle has formed around Loreen, unplanned, unspoken, like gravity itself, shifted toward the woman who just an hour earlier was all but invisible. Outside, dusk is deepening. Parking lot lights flicker on. But inside the West Pine Community Center, something else flickers, the last remnants of arrogance giving way to respect. Malik, still a little stunned, leans against the wall near Palm. He watches Loreen not with embarrassment, but attentiveness, the way someone listens when they realize they've spent years talking too much and learning too little. Next to him, Raina clutches her gym bag, biting her lip like she wants to ask something, but doesn't quite have the nerve. It's Devin who breaks the silence. You said you used to work trauma, he says, lowering himself beside Loreen again. 17 years, she replies. Overnight shifts mostly. Tokyo, Chicago, later, Savannah. You traveled a lot. No, she says. I followed the work. A pause, then she adds, I was the only black nurse in my department for most of that time. That didn't come with applause. No one speaks. The group listens quiet and still. Sometimes Loreen continues, voice even men twice my size would try to talk over me in the OR. Sometimes patients wouldn't let me touch them until someone white walked in. I've been spat at, cursed out, cornered in elevators by drunks. But I stayed because people needed help and because I needed to prove to myself that kindness didn't mean weakness. Malik swallows. It's clear now that fight on the mat wasn't the hardest one she's fought, not even close. Raina speaks up soft and careful. You ever regret staying in it that long? Loreen looks down at her palms, calloused and lined, then back up. Every time I had to go into the break room and cry, so no one would see me, maybe. But then I'd go back out, reset a dislocated shoulder hold, a stranger's hand, until they stopped shaking, or keep a kid alive who'd been hit by a car. And suddenly the pain didn't win. I did. That lands hard. Even Devin, who's coached here for over a decade, shifts in his seat. I stopped showing up for belts a long time ago, Loreen says, but I never stopped showing up. Malik finally steps forward. Would you ever think about training kids? The question catches her off guard for a second. Why do you ask? He shrugs, almost shy. I got a little brother. He's 10. Too much energy. No respect. Reminds me of me, the version of me from earlier tonight. There's laughter now, not mocking. Real. Small smiles, heads nodding. Loreen tilts her head. Then I'd better stay sharp. Devin claps his hands once. All right, I'm serious now. Once a month, Saturday mornings. Miss Brooks, real talk. I'll show up, says Raina quickly. Same, adds another boy. Even Malik raises his hand. If you're teaching, I'm listening. Loreen glances around the room. The faces, the energy, how much it's changed, not because she shouted or showed off, but because she stayed steady. She lets out a small breath. Then we'll start with balance. Not the kicks, not the punches. Balance, Raina smiles wide. Why Loreen gives her a look that carries years. Because if your feet aren't steady, everything falls apart. In karate, in life. And just like that, the lesson begins. Not everything stays buried forever. What Loreen reclaimed wasn't her title. It wasn't the attention of the room. It was her own rhythm, the part of her that hadn't moved since Harold passed. The woman who held vigil over a man she loved night after night while the rest of the world moved on like he never existed. The woman who folded herself into the silence of caregiving until she barely recognized her own reflection. That woman now stood in the center of the gym, surrounded by students who would have ignored her an hour ago, but who now leaned in hungry to learn not just how to kick, but how to stand. Loreen reaches for her windbreaker and pulls it over her shoulder slowly. She turns to Devin. Let me think about it. Teaching, I mean. He nods. Fair. She faces Malik. You going to catch yourself next time before your mouth opens? He gives a quiet grin. I'll try. Don't try. Do. He nods, serious this time. One by one, the students begin to gather their things, still talking, still looking back at Loreen. But now they speak differently. Not around her, to her. Outside, the sky is dark. A breeze kicks up, tugging gently at the flags over the recreation center. Loreen stands beside her silver Buick, keys in hand, watching the last stragglers drift toward their cars. Malik and Raina linger, unsure how to leave. Malik finally says, So, how do you stay that calm when someone's charging at you, trying to knock you over? Loreen smiles gently. Because I've been through worse. And if I can survive those nights when no one saw me cry, I can survive a boy throwing a punch, Raina whispers. That's what I want to learn. Loreen places a hand on her shoulder. Then show up. Keep showing up. The street is quiet now, but inside that gym and inside each of them, something lingers. The parking lot empties slowly as if people aren't quite ready to let go of whatever shifted in them tonight. The usual rhythm of post-class chatter, the tossing of gym bags into trunks, the clatter of keys, the idle jokes is quieter now. Students glance back toward the building like they're leaving something sacred behind. Loreen sits in her car for a moment, engine off, hands resting on the steering wheel. She doesn't move to start it yet. The glow from the street lamp above casts a soft amber hue across her windshield. Outside her window, Malik stands with his arms crossed, not in defiance but thought. Next to him, Raina leans against a pillar, her gym bag on the ground, her eyes still searching for something unsaid. Loreen rolls the window halfway down. Malik speaks first. I think my brother would like you. He gets angry real fast, but he listens when someone's real with him. Loreen nods once. Anger's just fear with its back turned. He'll come around. Raina hesitant steps forward. You said you didn't come to prove anything, but I think you proved something anyway. Loreen turns her gaze toward the girl. I proved I'm still here. That's enough for me. Then she adds quieter. But if it helped anyone else remember who they are or want to be, then I'll take that too. A few more students begin to gather near her car. Devin joins them holding a clipboard and sipping from a half-empty water bottle. Miss Brooks, he says, I talked to the center director. If you're willing, we've got a free Saturday slot. Twice a month. No pressure. Loreen studies his face. The earnestness in his voice is new. He's no longer the coach watching from the sidelines measuring potential. He's the student now learning that strength doesn't always come loud. She finally answers, You still gonna whisper about me behind my back? A chuckle ripples through the group. No, ma'am, Raina replies quickly. Not again. Malik raises a hand. I'll make sure of it. Loreen unlocks her door, steps out slowly, her old white sneakers scuffing the asphalt. The breeze tugs at the hem of her windbreaker as she stands before them all. For the first time, she's not on the edge of the room. She's at the center. She looks around at their faces, some curious, some sheepish, some quietly hopeful. She sees pieces of herself in all of them, the ones still fighting for identity, still waiting to be seen, still walking into rooms hoping not to be dismissed before they speak. You want me to teach, she says, not with bravado, but with gravity. A dozen heads nod. Then you'd better be ready to listen, not to the kicks, not to the drills, to the silence. Because that's where the real stuff lives. Raina asks softly, what kind of stuff? Loreen glances up at the stars now peeking through the Georgia sky. The kind that keeps you standing when life knocks the air out of you. The kind that doesn't show up in belts or medals, but in the way you carry yourself when nobody's clapping. She opens the car door but pauses. One more thing, she adds, voice steady. You don't have to be loud to be strong, and you don't have to be young to still matter. She gets in, starts the engine, and rolls down the window one last time. Keep showing up, she says. Even when the room doesn't want you to, especially then. Then she drives off, taillights glowing like quiet embers in the dark. No one speaks right away. No one needs to. They all just stand there watching her disappear down the street. Because what they saw that night wasn't just a lesson in self-defense. It was a reminder that dignity can move in silence, that strength can wear silver braids and white sneakers, and that sometimes the most powerful person in the room is the one nobody saw coming. So now let's take a breath. Let the noise settle. Let the quiet speak. Because tonight wasn't about power the way we usually think of it. It wasn't about who kicks the hardest or moves the fastest. It was about presence. About a woman walking into a space where she was underestimated, overlooked, nearly laughed out the door, and choosing not to fight that with anger but with calm, steady truth. Loreen Brooks didn't come to prove herself. She came to remember herself. And in doing so, she reminded everyone around her that strength isn't always loud, that the most meaningful victories often happen in the silence, in the moments when we stand our ground, when we move with grace, when we decide that we are enough, even if no one claps. Some people win trophies, some wear titles. But the people we remember, the ones who shift something in us, are the ones who move with dignity when no one expects them to. So if you've ever been underestimated, if you've ever been told you're too old, too late, too out of place, show up anyway. Because you never know who's watching, and you never know when it's your moment to remind them who you are.